Hey guys, it's Emilio Espinosa with Espinosa and Associates. I'm here with Ray Zammit of Housemaster Home Inspections, and he's here to share some tips with us about what to look for when doing home inspections.
So my name is Ray Zammit. I'm the director of the Housemaster franchise office in Mississauga. We do home inspections, and we've been in business now. We just celebrated our 27th year, so we've been there for a while.
And you're 30, right?
31. Let's not stretch that. Okay.
Well, I can't. I've never been good with numbers.
Yeah.
So, Ray, we've obviously have a business relationship, personal relationship too. I've known you quite some time. I'm pretty sure you were one of the first home inspectors that I used when I got into the business. What have you seen that's, I guess, changed, or how traditionally home inspections were viewed as what?
Okay, so traditionally in the marketplace, you look for a house, you find something you like, you place an offer, and the offer is conditional. Usually conditional in home inspection, conditional in finance. So that gives the buyer an opportunity for us to come in and take a look at the house, give it a quick look to determine the condition of the house so that the buyer knows what they are getting, the good and the bad. And that's traditionally the way our marketplace has been. Of course, recently that hasn't been the case. It has been a very strong seller's market where the condition for home inspection, even the condition for finance, just isn't there. Right. You're competing, you got multiple offers on every deal, and if you want a chance of getting the house, you basically have to go in with a clean, firm offer. So these conditions disappeared.
So then you saw something where, like you said, traditionally people would place an offer, you'd come in, give it an overview, all of a sudden market changes, you're almost not being needed anymore. In a sense.
In a sense. Well, let's just say our business had to adapt and transform. Right. Okay, so yeah, the traditional business model where we cater to the buyers had to change, and had to change quickly. So we started doing more pre-inspections, which means we were doing inspections for the seller. We would do the same inspection, provide the report, but we're doing it for the seller on behalf of really future buyers. So this made it possible for sellers to attract more interest in their house. Right. In a competing market, you can't be doing home inspections, so the seller provides this, and it gave the buyer some confidence. At least they knew what they were getting. Even though they can't put in the condition themselves, at least they had a report that outlines the issues of the house, and it gave them a bit of confidence that at least they know what they're getting, and it just brought out even more buyers.
Well, another thing that I liked about your services that you were offering too was it wasn't just, like you said, it was for the sellers. But I know if the sellers didn't have it, one thing that I valued, and I know that a lot of our clients did, was that you would then, because the house would get listed today on a Monday, and then on a Friday or Saturday or next week, they're looking at offers. I know one of the things that you offered was you would actually, the buyer could actually hire to come in to do a home inspection prior to the offer.
Yeah, we call it the pre-offer inspections. We certainly did quite a few of those. It is at the buyer's risk, unfortunately, because yes, we do the inspection before the offer date. Again, the buyer has a very good understanding of the condition of the house. But the risk to the buyer is that they may not get the house. They may not be successful. They're still competing against a slew of other buyers, and sometimes they would win and sometimes they wouldn't. So that came with a bit of a risk for the buyers, but some people needed that comfort to know what they're getting. It's a big investment. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Exactly. You're not buying a pair of shoes here. So for some buyers, this was the right approach for them.
Okay. Now, a lot of the times when obviously these buyers were doing a lot of these inspections, was there, and actually I know just from our own experience, I know sometimes if we didn't do a home inspection, we would then close, and I know we would have you come in on the day of closing or the next day to do the inspection because, what kind of things did you run into that you saw within the market?
So in that case, they have bought the house firm with no conditions. They've closed on the deal, and then they bring us in. And the advantage of that, it not only tells them the condition of the house because they're just moving in, it helps them focus priorities. If they're thinking perhaps of they're going to renovate the kitchen, you know, they set aside X amount of dollars for that, but we come along and say, you know, your roof's in really poor shape, you've got mold in the attic, and your furnace is way beyond its design life. That may change their priorities. You know, we all have limited amount of funds, and we have to pick and choose what we can do. It's great to have a new kitchen, but if your roof is leaking, it's a horrible situation. So yeah, so we come in after they close, and we do these inspections. And for first-time home buyers, it's a valuable service because we introduce them to their house. They know how to we teach them how to maintain it, you know, all the various shut-off valves, the things they're expected to do in the winter months, in the spring. So it's very valuable to them as well. So it went over very well. Like you said, we had to adapt our business model during this market, and that became a big part of our business.
And I know that people, like you said, appreciate the fact that, especially, you know, first-time buyers, they have no idea.
They don't.
Especially if they're coming, like, say, from a condo, or they're coming from, you know, renting.
Or coming
stuff
from another country.
We
have a lot of immigrants in this area, and our house construction is like 100% different from their house construction. They're blown away that we build houses out of wood. You know, and they just don't understand that. And, you know, just cleaning practices of throwing a bucket of water in your bathroom floor to wipe it all. You can't do that here, you know. So it sounds weird and funny, but it's real. So yeah, you have young families that are buying their first house. Maybe they just left home or just left their condo, and you have new people coming from all over the world that just aren't familiar with our construction. They couldn't even identify a furnace if they were in the basement. So it's this type of service is very beneficial for them.
What about those people that say, well, you know what, Ray, listen, I'm buying a house that's probably 2-3 years old, fairly new, recent codes. Why should I even be investing the money in a home inspection?
Well, because you're buying the biggest purchase of your life, and just because it's new doesn't mean it was built properly. If everything was built correctly, we wouldn't have home inspections, we wouldn't have city inspectors, we wouldn't need inspections, but people are fallible, people make mistakes. So just because it's new doesn't mean that the electrical has been done perfectly throughout the whole house. Just because it's new doesn't mean that the wind hasn't blown some shingles off your roof, or that the furnace exhaust vent became loose and could be leaking into your basement. Like, new is great. New means you're probably getting more energy efficiency out of your home than an old house. All the colors and finishes are modern and up to date, and there's a lot of advantages. But at the end of the day, they're built by people, and people make mistakes. Right. So just because it's new, just because it's to the code, doesn't mean it's been built right. And that's where we come in.
Because I know we run into scenarios too, where we look at, sometimes you've done home inspections where it's older homes, and sometimes that older home is actually in a lot better shape than some of the newer homes.
Yeah. Well, sometimes a 25-year-old home would be in better shape than a 10 or 15-year-old home, because most of the major systems of a house have roughly, and it varies, roughly 15-year life cycle. So if you're buying a 13-year-old house, you could be buying a house that's at the end of all the major life cycles. You're going to be needing a new furnace, new air conditioner, new roof, maybe the windows soon. And sometimes you'll buy a 25-year-old house and all these items have been corrected. So here you are buying an older home, but you've got a newer roof, a newer furnace, newer windows. So yeah, you can't just look at it from age alone. I mean, I hate to say, but older homes, the bones tend to be better, but there are definitely advantages to older homes with neighborhoods, mature trees, and certain advantages to newer homes, newer finishes, more energy efficiency. So, there's plus and minuses of both. It boils down to what the buyer wants and needs at the end of the day.
What about people that are, thinking about maybe the cost of a home inspection? Because it's not cheap. But again, you're bringing in an expert, you're bringing in a professional. What would you say to those people saying, well, I really don't want to spend that money?
At the end of the day, it's their decision, but would you buy a used car and not test drive it? Would you turn on the engine on a used car, or would you just say, wow, it's clean and it's shiny, it must be good? This is a big purchase. You know, you could be spending hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on a house purchase. The cost of inspection is really relatively minor. It's minuscule. It's minuscule compared to the cost of a house. So often we find enough issues with a house that more than compensates the cost of the inspection. It's up to the individual buyers if they're comfortable, if they're in a financial situation that they don't care if something surprises them on moving day. Ultimately, it's their decision, but from my perspective, and I'm biased, it's such a small cost to help protect you in probably the largest purchase of your life.
And it truly is. And like I know from our experience, I know from the feedback that I get from our clients, one of the things they appreciate, they value, and so do I, is that, you know, you'll find things, which is what we want to do. Yeah. And then you actually, you know, you're not the type of, and I've seen this in the past sometimes with when the client gets their own home inspector. And I remember having a home inspector say, well, you know, the paint color in this kitchen is off. Like, there's nothing to do with the home inspection.
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
Nothing, but I appreciate it, and I know they do that when there is something that comes out, you provide a solution.
Well, that's crucial. Yeah, and I think most good home inspectors will do that. You can imagine a first-time home buyer. Let's not look at a seasoned home buyer who's buying his third or fourth house, but let's say a first-time home buyer and you find an issue with the house. You don't even know what's going through their head. It's terrifying. You know, you need a new roof. Well, what does that mean? Are they removing the structure? Do I have to move out? How much is it going to cost? So, you know, you need to do a little bit of hand-holding and tell them, yeah, this is typical for this age. It is important. This is roughly what it's going to cost. And this is the timeline. When you provide people with information, they'll make the right decision for them. You know, I'm not one to tell them you should buy this house, this is a great house, buy it, or vice versa. There's a lot of issues in this house, don't buy it. I don't know their personal situation, if they have the ability to correct it or not. Maybe they got it for a steal, and even if they're gonna spend $100,000 or $200,000, it's still a good deal. I don't know those things. Maybe they got contractors that are family members. We don't know these things. So we just provide facts. This is what's wrong. This is what you need to correct it. And you know, sometimes there's a lot of communication, lots of going back and forth, and that's the purpose of it. It's for the buyer to understand the condition of the house. It's not enough to just provide a report and walk away. They have to understand. They have to understand what it means to them financially, emotionally, timeline-wise, what's it gonna take, who do they call to repair these things. It's very important stuff. And like I said, it becomes even more crucial with first-time home buyers, new immigrants to the country, because they're just not familiar.
And then, like you said, they can make an informed and educated decision moving forward.
And they'll move, and they will always make the right decision whether to proceed or not proceed. If they're just not comfortable, they're just not. It's the right decision. You and I may say, you know, hey, it's only a roof. You know, it's one phone call and it's done. If they're not comfortable with it at the end of the day, who are we to?
No, and like I said, give them the facts. Usually, you know, typically, actually not typically, I would say the majority of the time when you give people the information,
accurate facts.
You give them, you know, these are the facts, this is the information, here's your options. The majority of the time really make the right decision for themselves.
I think so.
So what would you tell people? What are people getting if they're calling Ray or and you know, house masters? What kind of services are they're expecting to get from yourself?
So as far as a standard home inspection goes, okay, so standard home inspection is a complete evaluation of all the major systems of the house, the exterior and the interior. So we're going to be looking at the roof, the building cladding, bricks, siding, whatever it may be, the garage, general grading and drainage on the property, decks, walkways, driveways. Then inside, we typically start from the second floor. We start with the attic. looking at the overall structure, signs of leakage, mold, which is a big one, insulation, ventilation. And then we literally go through the house room by room, from the top down. We look at every window and door, we look at plugs and switches. Bit of time is spent in the bathrooms and the kitchen looking for electrical safety, leakage, fixture condition. As we work our way down to the basement, now we're looking for evidence of foundation leakage, any structural issues in the basement. We open up the electrical panel and we inspect the wiring inside the panel. We'll run the furnace, we'll run the air conditioning. All of this is documented. They'll get a very thorough, detailed report with pictures. Shortly after the inspection, it's all electronically delivered. So it's a very thorough, methodical, room by room look at the house, covering all the major systems of.
And you do offer other services. I know you do infrared.
Infrared services there. We'll do mold air screening if they're really concerned about mold in the basement. We can do air sampling. We can do mold swabbing if there's some suspicious areas. We can sample that. We'll do radon screening. We'll do asbestos testing. These are services that are additional to a standard home inspection. Yeah.
Okay, but you do have that option with you.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. Great. You know what? I thank you. I'm sure the people that are watching got a lot from this. I know every day. I mean, other times that we do home inspections, I always learn something new. So I thank you for making the time from your busy day to be here and
my pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Emilio. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ray.
All right.